The morning sun barely touched the edges of the colony dome when Lyra adjusted her bag strap and walked into the classroom. The school on planet Archon was unlike anything humans had seen before. Its walls glimmered with adaptive panels that adjusted temperature, light, and even displayed information for students. Outside, the wind howled across the rocky surface, but inside it was warm and calm. Lyra glanced around the room. Her classmates were a mix of species: tall, thin beings with translucent skin, short creatures with wings, and some covered in thick fur. The humans in the room were still few, and most of the alien students barely noticed them. Lyra had learned early that being underestimated had its advantages. "Good morning, Lyra," her teacher, Mr. Harvin, said. His voice was calm, the kind that made everyone feel safe. "Today, we will continue our lessons on planetary history. But remember, observation is just as important as memorization." Lyra nodded, settling into her usual spot near the window. She liked observing the small details others missed. The way the panel shifted colors slightly as someone entered the room, or how the younger alien students twitched when they were nervous. Humans had a strange advantage: curiosity. It often led them to notice what others overlooked. As Mr. Harvin began the lesson, a soft tremor ran through the floor. At first, Lyra thought it was her imagination, but then she noticed the flicker of the lights and the faint sound of something heavy moving outside. The room's temperature control panel blinked red for a second, warning of an external breach. "Stay calm, everyone," Mr. Harvin said, though Lyra could see the tension in his eyes. He moved toward the console at the front of the room, tapping quickly on the holographic controls. "This is unexpected." Lyra's heart beat faster. She had been trained in basic survival drills, but this was different. This wasn't a simulation. Something was coming, something dangerous. A sudden roar shook the dome. It was deep and guttural, the kind of sound that made the furred students shiver and the winged ones hunch in fear. Lyra froze for a moment. That sound was unlike anything she had ever heard in her life. It was a predator, and it had found its way inside. "Everyone, get under your desks," Mr. Harvin shouted. "Lock your seats. Do not leave the room." Lyra ducked under her desk, her fingers tightening around the edge. She could hear the heavy footsteps moving across the floor outside the classroom. They were deliberate, strong, and terrifying. The predators had come to teach humans a lesson. That much was clear. For weeks, rumors had spread through the colony. The Council on Archon was uneasy about humans. They didn't trust them yet. And now they had sent the predators, not soldiers, not enforcers, but hunters. Creatures designed for one purpose: to crush anything in their path. The door shook violently. Lyra's eyes widened as a clawed hand slammed against the panel. Sparks flew. The predator's strength was immense, and it was relentless. A few alien students screamed. Lyra bit her lip, trying to block out the fear and think. Humans survived not by strength, but by thinking. Lyra remembered what her father had told her. "When everything looks lost, remember there is always something around you that can help. Look, plan, act." Her gaze fell on the broken chair leg next to her desk. Simple, wooden, unassuming. But in the right hands, it could be more than just a piece of furniture. Lyra slid it under her desk, fingers curling around the smooth surface. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. The predator finally forced the door open with a terrifying crash. Its glowing eyes scanned the room, calculating. It was large, muscular, with jagged claws and teeth sharp enough to tear through metal. But as it stepped inside, it didn't notice Lyra crouched under the desk. A smaller alien student shrieked, and the predator turned. It was fast, almost impossibly fast. Lyra held her breath, praying it wouldn't see her. But luck was with her. The predator lunged toward another student, and in that moment, Lyra saw her chance. She gripped the chair leg tightly, her knuckles white. She remembered what her martial arts instructor had taught her back on Earth. Use your environment. The predator was fast, but it didn't anticipate strategy. Lyra waited, timing her movement perfectly. As the predator reached the corner of the desk, Lyra sprang out, swinging the chair leg like a lever. It hit the predator's leg, and the creature stumbled, surprised. It roared in anger and turned toward her. Lyra didn't hesitate. She grabbed a loose wire from the floor and wrapped it around one of the predator's claws, yanking hard. The predator fell, howling in frustration. Her classmates stared in shock. No one expected the human girl to fight back. Lyra's heart pounded, but she felt alive, focused. This was a fight for survival, and humans were not known to give up. "Follow me," she shouted to the others. "Use what you see. Anything can be a weapon." Some of the alien students hesitated, but then acted. A winged student grabbed a heavy bookcase and pushed it toward another predator entering the room. A furred student used a paint bucket from an art corner, swinging it like a mace. Chaos erupted, but it was the kind of chaos that humans thrived in. Improvisation, strategy, courage. It all came together. Lyra moved quickly, hopping onto desks, using the chair leg to trip the predator that had stumbled. She aimed for weak points, joints, eyes, anything that would slow it down. She remembered reading about humans fighting larger animals on Earth, using clever traps instead of raw strength. Now she was living that lesson. The predator recovered and lunged again, faster this time. Lyra barely rolled out of the way, her chair leg striking a console and sparking a small fire. Smoke filled the room, giving her cover. She grabbed a loose metal rod from the floor and jammed it into the predator's path, causing it to trip again. In the chaos, she noticed the other predators were communicating in clicks and growls. They were smart, coordinating attacks. But Lyra had an advantage humans always had: thinking ahead. She started setting small traps with whatever she could find. Wires, panels, overturned chairs. Every move forced the predators to adapt, slowing them down. The classroom, once quiet and orderly, was now a battlefield. Sparks flew from broken panels, smoke curled along the ceiling, and students shouted instructions to each other. Lyra moved like a conductor, guiding chaos, turning fear into strategy. She glanced at the main console. If she could trigger the emergency lockdown, the predators would be trapped inside, giving everyone a chance to escape. But it was risky. She had to get close without being caught. Her pulse raced. She took a deep breath and sprinted toward the console, ducking low as a predator lunged. She swung the chair leg, hitting its claws just enough to make it miss. With trembling hands, she activated the console. Doors began to slide shut, locking sections of the dome. The predators roared in frustration. Lyra ducked behind a desk as the main predator tried to break through, but it was too late. The lockdown slowed them, containing the threat. Her classmates stared at her, wide-eyed. A mix of fear and awe filled the room. Lyra, breathing hard, looked down at the chair leg in her hands. It was simple, ordinary, yet it had been enough. Humans, one alien student whispered, voice shaking. You fight differently." Lyra smiled faintly, though exhaustion weighed on her. "We fight smart," she said. "We use what we have, and we don't give up." The predators outside the locked doors growled, pounding against the panels. They were powerful, relentless, and dangerous. But the humans, small and underestimated, had already shown they could adapt. The first encounter was over, but the battle was only beginning. Mr. Harvin entered the room cautiously, nodding at Lyra. "You were brave," he said softly. "And clever. You saved lives today." Lyra shook her head. "We all did. We worked together." The alien students nodded, some still in shock, some inspired. For the first time, they saw that humans were more than they appeared. Small, seemingly weak, but unafraid and ingenious. As the students regrouped, Lyra looked around the classroom. Broken chairs, overturned desks, and scorch marks told the story of the battle. But she also saw potential. Every broken object was a tool, every corner a strategic advantage. If she could think like this now, imagine what humans could do in the wider galaxy. Her mind raced with possibilities. This was just the beginning. Predators had come to crush humans to prove that the Council's fear was justified. But Lyra had shown that even the smallest human could turn the odds. With courage, creativity, and quick thinking, humans were not easy prey. The alarm continued to blare, signaling danger. But Lyra felt a spark of hope. The predators would return. They always did. But so would humans, ready to fight in ways no one expected. And Lyra, with her chair leg in hand, was ready. The smoke from the broken panels still lingered in the classroom, curling in gray spirals around the students. Lyra sat on the floor, breathing heavily, her chair leg resting across her knees. She had expected panic, fear, and chaos, but she had not expected the calm determination that now spread through her classmates. "Lyra," whispered Tiro, the winged student who had hesitated earlier. His eyes were wide, feathers slightly ruffled. How did you do that?" Lyra shook her head, tired but focused. "We did it together," she said firmly. "Now we need to plan. They won't stop." Outside the classroom, the predators' growls echoed through the locked doors. Their claws scraped metal as they tried to break through. The main predator, the one Lyra had first confronted with the chair leg, paced back and forth, its glowing eyes scanning for weaknesses. Lyra knew one thing: the predators were smart. They weren't just brute force, they had experience hunting in teams, tracking prey, and adapting quickly. If they returned, it would not be enough to react. The students needed a strategy. "Listen," Lyra said, standing and holding the chair leg like a staff. "We can't fight them head-on again. We need to use the dome, the environment, and every tool we can find." Some alien students nodded slowly. They were still shaken, but Lyra's courage was contagious. One by one, they began to move, scanning the room for anything useful: pipes, wires, panels, even loose floor tiles. Lyra directed them, moving quickly from one to another. "Furak," she said, pointing at a furred student. "You're strong. Use that strength to block doors or throw things if needed. Tiro, your wings, help us reach the higher platforms, distract them, and guide us." Furak grunted and nodded. Tiro flapped his wings slightly, already thinking of ways to confuse the predators from above. Lyra could see the fear in their eyes, but also determination. Humans survived because they didn't rely only on strength. They relied on cleverness, courage, and quick thinking. The first test came almost immediately. A smaller predator had managed to pry open one of the secondary doors. It slithered into the hallway, its claws clicking against the floor. Lyra heard the terrified screams of students in the adjacent classrooms. "No," she shouted. "We can't let them reach anyone else. We have to block the hall." She grabbed a nearby trolley and pushed it against the doorway, but the predator was fast. It struck the metal trolley, bending it slightly, and then lunged forward. Lyra swung the chair leg with precision, jamming it into the doorframe just in time to stop the creature. Sparks flew and the predator hissed, retreating. "Good," Lyra shouted to her classmates. "That's exactly why we use our brains. Now follow me. We can make a trap." She led them to the main corridor of the dome. Here the predators had less cover, and Lyra quickly began improvising. She noticed a series of maintenance shafts along the walls. If she could lure the predators into these confined spaces, their size and strength would work against them. "Okay," Lyra said, pointing at a shaft. "We'll make them think it's an easy path. Then when they enter, we drop the panels behind them and trap them. But we need bait." Her classmates looked at her, puzzled. "I'll be the bait," Lyra said, holding up the chair leg. "They'll see me, think I'm alone, and follow me." "That's when the plan works," Furak grunted in concern. "It's dangerous," he said. "Yes," Lyra admitted. "But we don't have another choice. We have to end this before more predators arrive. If we act smart, we can win." The students prepared the traps. Lyra checked the wires, hooks, and panels, making sure everything was ready. Her heart pounded, but she focused. Fear was a tool, she realized. If you controlled it, it sharpened your senses. Then she stepped out into the corridor, moving carefully. The predators outside had sensed her presence. Their growls grew louder, and the main predator stepped forward, sniffing the air. Lyra kept her distance but moved deliberately, making noise to lure the creature into the trap. She ducked behind a corner, then sprinted a few steps before swinging the chair leg at a nearby panel, creating a loud crash. The predator lunged, and instinctively it ran toward the shaft she had prepared. "Now," Lyra shouted. Her classmates triggered the trap. Panels fell, wires snapped, and the predator roared, trapped inside the narrow shaft. Lyra didn't wait to celebrate. She ran back toward the classroom, leading the others with her. They paused only briefly before regrouping. "It worked," Tiro said, flapping his wings excitedly. You tricked it." Lyra smiled faintly, though sweat dripped down her forehead. "That's what humans do," she said. "We use what we have, always. Even if it seems small, even if it seems weak. It can be enough." Her classmates nodded, beginning to understand. Humans were not like other species they had met. Small, underestimated, but relentless. Courage and intelligence could beat strength, but the predators were not done. A louder, deeper growl came from the main entrance of the dome. Lyra knew they had called for reinforcements, or perhaps the main predator was regrouping. Either way, it was stronger than the first wave. "We need more traps," she said quickly. "More distractions. We can't fight them all at once, but if we divide and confuse them, we can control the battlefield." The students scattered to prepare. Lyra moved like a conductor, coordinating chaos into strategy. She climbed onto the upper platforms with Tiro, using his wings to reach higher panels. She jammed loose wires across the floor to trip the predators, dangling small objects to draw their attention. Every piece of furniture became a tool, every corner a defensive position. The first predator appeared, snarling and pacing. It was large, and its claws scraped sparks from the metal floor. Lyra kept her distance, swinging the chair leg to deflect attacks and trip it when possible. The creature lunged at her faster than she expected. She rolled out of the way, striking it in the knee with the chair leg. The predator staggered, snarled, and swung blindly. "Keep moving," Lyra shouted to her classmates. "Don't let them corner you!" Farak grabbed a heavy metal crate, throwing it to block one predator's path. Another alien student used a paint bucket, swinging it like a hammer. Lyra could see their confidence growing. She was not fighting alone. Together they were unpredictable. The predators were smart, but so were humans. Lyra realized that their patterns could be anticipated. They attacked in strength and speed, but they didn't expect improvisation. Every trap slowed them, every trick caused frustration. The main predator's eyes glowed brighter, but its movements became cautious. Then Lyra noticed something. There was a gap in their coordination. One predator had moved too far from the others, isolated. She signaled Tiro. "Distract it. Lead it toward the east corridor. I'll finish it with the trap we set there." Tiro flapped his wings and darted ahead, drawing the predator with quick movements and loud noises. The creature followed, roaring and snapping at empty air. Lyra ran after it, checking the trap one last time. She pressed the release and a panel dropped, trapping the predator. It thrashed violently, but the shaft's narrow walls held it in place. Lyra's classmates cheered quietly from their positions. One by one, they realized they could fight back, even against creatures much stronger than themselves. But there was no time to rest. The main predator, the largest and most dangerous, appeared at the corridor's end. It had been observing, learning. Its claws scraped the floor, sparks flying. Its roar echoed through the dome, shaking walls and panels alike. Lyra's heart pounded. She had never faced anything like this. It was bigger, faster, smarter than the ones they had trapped. But humans were adaptable. She gripped the chair leg tightly, feeling its weight steady her hand. "This is it," she whispered. "We can do this," the predator lunged. Lyra rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding its claws. She swung the chair leg with all her strength, striking its leg and tripping it slightly. Sparks flew from the metal floor, adding chaos to the scene. Her classmates joined in. Farak charged from behind, ramming the predator with his bulk. Tiro swooped down, pecking and clawing to distract. Others threw heavy objects, used wires and tools, and shouted instructions. For the first time, the predator faltered. It had never faced coordinated resistance from creatures so small. It growled, frustrated, but Lyra pressed forward. She dodged its attacks, using her speed and cleverness to land precise strikes with the chair leg. Finally, the predator stumbled, caught in a tangle of wires and fallen panels. Lyra stepped forward, chair leg poised. She struck one final blow at its knees, and it collapsed with a deafening roar. Silence followed. The dust settled, and the students stared in disbelief. They had done it. Against overwhelming odds, with nothing but courage, quick thinking, and ordinary tools, they had defeated the predators. Lyra dropped the chair leg, breathing heavily. Her classmates surrounded her, some cheering, some in awe. The humans in the room felt a surge of pride, and the alien students, those who had doubted them, now looked at humans with newfound respect. Humans. Tiro whispered, You are remarkable." Lyra smiled faintly, still catching her breath. "We're not special," she said. "We just don't give up. We use what we have. That's enough." The predators outside the locked doors growled and thrashed, but the students had learned a crucial lesson. Courage, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome even the deadliest threats. Lyra knew the battle wasn't over. The council might send more stronger predators, but now the students were ready. The dust hung in the air like gray fog as Lyra and her classmates stared at the damaged classroom. Sparks still flickered from broken panels, and the scent of scorched metal lingered. Outside, the predators had retreated for now, but the danger was far from over. Lyra knew that the council would send reinforcements, perhaps even stronger predators. She glanced at her friends, the aliens and humans alike, and felt a surge of determination. They had survived once. They could do it again. "Listen carefully," Lyra said, standing tall despite the exhaustion in her limbs. "They're going to come back, stronger, smarter. But we're not going to wait for them to attack us blindly. We're going to plan." The alien students nodded, some still wide-eyed from the chaos, others showing a newfound respect. Farak cracked his knuckles, a grin spreading across his furry face. "I like this plan," he said. "Humans think differently. I like it, Lyra smiled faintly. Good, then let's use that. We'll make the predators fight in ways they're not used to. Confuse them. Divide them, trap them, and we won't stop until they're gone, or until we are ready to face anything they throw at us. The students split up, preparing the dome for the next wave. Lyra directed the operations like a commander, moving quickly, observing every detail. Broken chairs became barricades, loose panels became traps, and wires were stretched across hallways to trip predators. Tiro and the other winged students flew above, placing obstacles and creating diversions. Furak and the stronger alien students moved heavy objects, reinforcing doors and creating choke points. Lyra herself inspected the main classroom, thinking strategically. She ran her fingers along the edges of panels, noting which could be dislodged, which wires could conduct electricity if triggered, and which areas offered vantage points. Humans were small, yes, but their ability to think, improvise, and anticipate was unmatched. Every predator had a weakness, they just had to find it. Hours passed and Lyra barely stopped. She guided her classmates, encouraged the frightened, and pushed the skilled to use their abilities creatively. Sweat dripped down her face and her muscles ached, but she barely noticed. Fear had been replaced with focus and adrenaline sharpened every sense. Finally, a low, guttural growl echoed through the dome. The predators were coming back. Lyra felt her pulse quicken. This time it wouldn't be just one or two. They were sending the main predator and two of its larger companions. She glanced at the traps they had set. The hallways were rigged with wires, the shafts ready to trap any large creature, and the students were positioned strategically. Stay calm, Lyra whispered to herself. Think, plan, move. The first predator burst into the corridor. Its claws scraped sparks from the floor and its eyes glowed with anger. Lyra was ready. She swung the chair leg, jamming it into the floor in front of the predator to make it stumble. It roared, and Lyra rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding its swipe. Tiro swooped from above, darting toward the predator's face. The creature lunged, but Tiro zipped out of the way, leading it directly toward one of the traps. The floor panel shifted under the predator's weight, tripping it slightly and sending sparks into its face. Lyra didn't hesitate. She swung the chair leg at its knee, and the predator staggered, letting out a frustrated roar. The other two predators entered the corridor, larger and stronger than the first. They moved in coordination, growling low and snapping claws. But Lyra was ready. She directed Furak to push a heavy crate into the path of one predator, slowing it down. Another student released a rope attached to a pipe, tripping the second predator as it lunged forward. Keep moving, Lyra shouted. Use everything. Anything can be a weapon. The hallways were chaos. Sparks flew, wires sparked, and objects clattered to the floor. Lyra dodged another swipe, rolling to the side, and struck one predator in the shoulder with her chair leg. The predator yelped, shocked by the unexpected precision. Humans were small, yes, but their strikes were clever, targeted, and unpredictable. She noticed the main predator adapting, learning their tricks. It moved faster, dodging wires and swinging claws at unexpected angles. Lyra realized that improvisation alone wouldn't be enough. They needed a strategy that went beyond traps. They needed to turn the predators against each other. Furak, Tiro, listen, Lyra shouted. Divide them! Make them fight each other. Confuse them. The alien students understood instantly. Tiro flew close to the main predator, distracting it and drawing it away from the others. Furak used his strength to push a smaller predator toward its larger companion, forcing the two to clash in confusion. Sparks and metal clanged as the predators collided, roaring in anger. Lyra seized the moment. She darted forward, using the chair leg to trip one predator and strike the other in the joints. Her movements were precise and deliberate, aimed at weak spots, knees, shoulders, and eyes. Every hit counted. Humans were small, but they had an advantage, ingenuity. The predators roared, frustrated. They had never encountered prey that thought so quickly, that used the environment so cleverly. Lyra saw the opportunity and acted. She led the main predator into a narrow corridor, its massive body barely able to fit. The walls were rigged with a trip mechanism she had prepared earlier. As the predator lunged at her, she jumped aside. The tripwire caught its leg, sending it sprawling forward and trapping it in a narrow passage. Sparks flew from the floor and the creature struggled, snarling as it tried to free itself. Her classmates cheered quietly from their positions. Lyra smiled faintly, though her chest heaved with exhaustion. They were doing it. They were turning the predator's strength against them. But the battle was not over. One predator had broken free and was heading toward the classroom, where the younger students were hiding. Lyra's heart leaped. She couldn't let it reach them. She grabbed the chair leg, signaling the other students to follow. "Follow me," she shouted. "We stop it here." The students moved together, a coordinated team of humans and aliens. Lyra led the predator into a larger room with more obstacles. She swung the chair leg, striking its legs and sides while Furak rammed into it with his bulk. Tiro and the winged students swooped, pecking and scratching to distract it further. The predator roared, but Lyra noticed something crucial. It was tiring. Its attacks were still dangerous, but its movements were slower, less precise. Humans and aliens together had pushed it to its limits. Lyra gritted her teeth, swinging the chair leg with all her strength. She struck the creature's knees and side, forcing it to collapse. Sparks from broken panels and wires flew around, but she didn't stop. She pressed her advantage, jabbing the creature with the chair leg until it could no longer move effectively. Her classmates worked together seamlessly. One student grabbed a rope and wrapped it around the predator's claws, while another triggered a panel to fall behind it, trapping it completely. The creature struggled, but the team's coordination was too strong. Finally, the predator collapsed, groaning in defeat. Lyra stood, chair leg in hand, chest heaving with exhaustion. Around her, the classroom and hallways were scarred, burned, and battered, but the predators had been defeated again. Her classmates stared in awe. Tiro landed nearby, wings trembling slightly from effort. I didn't think it was possible," he said, voice shaking. You're incredible." Lyra shook her head, smiling faintly. "We did it together. Humans alone might have been small, but together we're strong, smarter than they expect." "That's enough," Furak grunted, a proud grin on his furry face. "Humans, you fight differently, cleverly, I like it." "I respect it." The other students nodded, still catching their breath. Lyra looked around at the group, seeing determination in every face. Fear had been replaced with courage, doubt with confidence. They had survived predators designed to crush them, and they had done it without conventional weapons, relying on brains, courage, and the simplest tools, a chair leg, wires, and their wits. But Lyra knew one thing. This was not the end. The Council would not give up. They had sent the predators to crush humans, to prove that humans were weak and unworthy. But Lyra had shown that humans were adaptable, brave, and capable of more than anyone expected, and if the Council thought they could send stronger predators next, Lyra and her classmates would be ready. She dropped the chair leg, leaning against a wall, her muscles trembling. "We survived this round," she said softly. "But next time, we'll be stronger, faster, smarter. We'll be ready." The alien students looked at her with newfound respect. Tiro nodded, wings folding neatly behind him. "I understand now," he said. "Humans. You are different, special." Lyra smiled faintly. "We're not special," she said. "We're human." "That's enough." Outside the locked doors, the predators roared and thrashed, frustrated by their defeat. But inside, Lyra and her classmates were ready. They had learned the value of courage, strategy, and teamwork. They had seen the human spirit in action, and it was a force no one could ignore. As the sun set over the rocky surface of planet Archon, Lyra looked at the horizon through the damaged dome. Sparks still flickered from broken panels, but she felt a spark of hope. Humans, small and underestimated, had survived, and with determination, intelligence, and courage they could survive anything. The night had fallen over planet Archon, and the dome of the school glowed faintly against the dark, rocky landscape. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Lyra paced the classroom, chair leg in hand, her eyes scanning every corner. She could still hear the distant roars of the predators outside the locked doors, echoing through the metal corridors. "We can't let them break through again," Lyra said firmly. Her classmates gathered around her, a mix of humans and aliens, their eyes bright with determination. "This time we finish it. We end them. Or we hold the line so no one else gets hurt." Furak, the furry alien with immense strength, grunted. "I'm ready." "You lead, human." "We follow." Tiro, the winged student, flapped his wings anxiously. "We've learned their patterns," he said. "We can trick them, divide them, and trap them. But we need courage. We need humans to lead." Lyra nodded. "That's exactly what we'll do. They underestimate us. They always do. And that is their weakness." The predators outside were growing restless. The Council's hired hunters had failed twice, and their frustration was evident in every roar and scratch at the doors. Lyra knew they would attack with even more force this time. She looked at her classmates and felt a surge of pride. They had survived before. They could survive again. "Remember," Lyra said, pointing to the map of the dome displayed on the wall. "We control the environment. We know where they can move. We'll use every hallway, every panel, every trap. Work together, stay alert, and watch each other's backs." The students nodded, some gripping tools, others preparing makeshift weapons. The tension was high, but so was the determination. Lyra felt her heart pound, not with fear, but with resolve. Humans thrived in the face of danger. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Then the predators struck. The main predator lunged through the main entrance, its massive body slamming against the reinforced doors. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and the ground shook. Lyra held her chair leg tightly, stepping forward to meet it head-on. The creature roared, swinging its claws with deadly speed. Lyra ducked and rolled, her movements precise, striking at its legs with the chair leg to destabilize it. The predator staggered, surprised by her boldness. Humans were small, but their strikes were clever, targeted, and relentless. Furak charged from the side, ramming the predator with all his weight. The creature hissed and turned, swinging at Furak, but Lyra anticipated the movement. She struck its joints, tripping it slightly and making space for Tiro and the other winged students to swoop in, pecking and distracting it further. The battle escalated. Sparks flew from broken panels, wires sparked and hissed, and the predators roared in anger. Lyra led the charge, moving from one predator to another, striking weak points and forcing them to split up. Each predator was powerful, but the students' coordination and strategy made them vulnerable. "Divide them," Lyra shouted. "Confuse them. Use the traps." Alien students triggered panels to fall behind the predators, jamming their legs and slowing them down. Wires stretched across hallways, tripped claws, and overturned furniture forced the hunters into narrow corridors. Lyra watched the main predator, the largest of them all, adapting quickly, but humans adapted faster. She grabbed a loose metal rod and jammed it between the main predator's claws, causing sparks and confusion. The predator roared and lashed out blindly. Lyra ducked, rolling to the side, and swung her chair leg at its knees. The creature faltered, giving her classmates the opening to act. "Now everyone," she shouted. "We finish it!" Furak charged again, ramming another predator into a wall. Tiro swooped and pecked strategically, distracting the creatures from attacking together. Other alien students used ropes, wires, and heavy objects to trip and slow the predators. Lyra darted through the chaos, swinging the chair leg with precision, striking joints, knees, and sides. The predators were formidable, but they had underestimated humans. They were fast and strong, yes, but not smart enough to anticipate coordinated intelligence combined with ingenuity. Lyra had studied their movements, predicted their attacks, and used every advantage the dome offered. She led the main predator into a narrow corridor rigged with a heavy panel trap. As it lunged at her, she dodged, and the panel fell behind it, trapping the creature completely. Sparks flew as metal scraped against metal, and the predator struggled in the confined space. The other predators were still active, but Lyra had a plan. She signaled Furak and Tiro, "Divide them. Keep them busy while we finish this one." The students worked in unison. One predator was tripped into a pit of wires. Another was distracted by falling objects and the winged student's swift maneuvers. Lyra used her chair leg like an extension of her arm, striking, tripping, and pushing at every opening, keeping the predators off balance. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Sweat poured down Lyra's face, her muscles ached, but she pressed forward. Every strike, every trap, every diversion brought them closer to victory. She glanced at her classmates, and despite their exhaustion, they were still focused, still determined. They had learned the value of courage, intelligence, and teamwork in battle. Finally, the last predator struggled in the traps they had set. Lyra approached it cautiously, chair leg in hand. She struck its knees, destabilizing it further. Sparks flew as it thrashed, but the combined traps and strikes left it no longer a threat. The room fell silent. The dust and smoke settled, and the predators lay incapacitated. Lyra dropped the chair leg, chest heaving, but a triumphant smile spread across her face. Her classmates gathered around, cheering and hugging each other. They had done it. Against overwhelming odds, they had defeated the predators. Not with brute strength alone, but with courage, cleverness, and teamwork. Humans, whispered Tiro, wings folded, eyes wide. You are incredible. Lyra shook her head. We're not special, she said. We just think, act, and never give up. That's enough. Farak grinned, placing a strong hand on Lyra's shoulder. Humans fight differently, cleverly, strategically. I respect that. Mr. Harvin, the teacher, entered cautiously, scanning the room. You all did something remarkable today, he said, voice steady but full of pride. Not just humans, but every one of you. Courage, intelligence, and cooperation. These won't just save lives. They build respect, Lyra nodded, still catching her breath. She looked around the room, seeing broken panels, overturned furniture, and scorch marks. Each scar told a story of survival, ingenuity, and bravery. And in her hands, the simple chair leg. Ordinary, but in her hands, extraordinary. The predators outside had finally retreated, defeated, and frustrated. The council had underestimated the humans and their allies. Lyra knew that this victory was more than just survival. It was a statement. Humans were not weak. Humans were adaptable, brave, and capable of extraordinary things. Later, as the students repaired the dome and cleaned the mess, Lyra took a moment to reflect. She thought of the council, the predators, and the danger that had threatened them. And she smiled, quietly proud. Humans had faced impossible odds, and they had won. The alien students, once doubtful and fearful, now looked at humans with respect and admiration. They had learned a valuable lesson. Courage, intelligence, and teamwork could overcome even the deadliest threats. And the human spirit, the ability to adapt, improvise, and persist, was unmatched. That night, as the colony settled into quiet, Lyra placed the chair leg on a small table near the classroom window. It was simple, unassuming, but it represented so much more: ingenuity, courage, and the determination to survive against all odds. And as she looked out at the rocky landscape of planet Arkan, she knew one thing: humans would always adapt, always survive, and always find a way to prevail. No matter the predator, no matter the danger, the human spirit would shine. The dome was safe, the students were alive, and the predators had been defeated. But the memory of this battle would linger, not as fear, but as a story of bravery, cleverness, and hope. Lyra had shown the colony that even the smallest human, armed with courage and a simple chair leg, could turn the tide against any threat.